Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week. We are in the midst of riots, asteroidal impacts, super volcanoes potentially erupting, and of course, Chinese power sniffles. Anyhow, today, let's do a little business. We'll get on with the show. Let's talk about coffee. You all drink it. You all want more of it. Let me get you on the get right tip with Viking Coffee. Evan Armstrong's brand out of Bowling Green, Ohio. The best coffee in the land. My favorite, of course, is the show brand, Old Man Strength Coffee. You guys should check it out and check out his other flavors while you, are they called flavors? I'm not sure they're called flavors, but check out his other coffee blends when you go to the website at vikingcoffeecode.com. Use the code VikingCoffee10 at checkout. Cerberus is the place to go if you need anything for Highland Games, strongman, powerlifting, any kind of lifting at all. They have knee sleeves, they have elbow sleeves, they have wrist wraps, they have great belts, they have smelling salts and sandbags and everything else you could possibly want for your strength journey. Check them out at cerberus-strength.us. Use the code REFINED-SAVAGE10 at checkout for 10% off. Warrior CBD, not all CBD oil is created equal. I promise you, if you're taking CBD oil in a state that doesn't allow legalized marijuana, you are probably taking essential oils, and they're calling it CBD oil. You don't want to do that. Check out Warrior CBD. They have the best stuff. Whether you have anxiety, problems sleeping, aches and pains, whatever, Warrior CBD can help you out. Check them out at warriorcbdofficial.com. Use the code WARRIOR20 off at checkout for 20% off. Stay Classy Meats. Are you in the grips of the meat shortage? Stay Classy Meats can help you. They will deliver meats to your house. They will be beautiful, delicious, scrumptious meats. Bison, beef, chicken, pork, bacon, the whole 9 yards. They've got it all, and it is the best stuff on the planet. I promise you. Check them out at stayclassymeats.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout. And finally, today, the Breath Belt. The Breath Belt. I don't know how it works. I just know it works. It's the best belt I have ever used. It's pretty awesome. I use it for everyday stuff. Like, you could use it for you throwers out there. I think it would be fantastic for you. Hayden's wearing it a little bit when he throws. I wear it when I sling heavy kettlebells. If I'm deadlifting, I'll wear the Breath Belt with a power belt over top of it. It's just really good. Stone lifting, I think it would be fantastic. I haven't tried. I'm going to do some stone lifting this weekend. I'm going to try putting that on and see how it feels. You definitely want to check it out. And check out Jessi. If you have questions, you can give him a holler at thebreathbelt.com. Use the code SAVAGE20, all caps, at checkout. Now, let's get on to business today. The podcast we need in these crazy times. I sat down yesterday. I sat down with Fred Lozano. Fred is, he's an interesting character, man. He's a good buddy of mine, and he's super smart, and he's been around the world and done a million things, and he's just a really good dude. So what I want you to do, sit down, relax, enjoy the show, and we solved all the world's problems, and you're welcome. All right, guys, we'll see you at the end. Well, the strangest part is you're not a coffee drinker, because you'd think that a man who, you know, has run his own brewery and has traveled all around the world, that would be one of the things that you would be like into is coffee.
So the coffee thing is actually, my parents traumatized me on coffee when I was a kid. So they drank so much coffee that they always made me make it.
Right.
So I could be outside playing with my friends, and they're like, "Hey, come in and make coffee." I'm like, "I don't want to make coffee. I'm out here. I'm in the middle of a game, you know."
Right.
Like, bring your ass here and make coffee. And then when we had company, and we always had company, it was, "Hey, these people need coffee.
Right.
Make the coffee." So I hated coffee because I'm like, "Man, fuck this coffee. I'm tired of coming in and making coffee."
I'm gonna teach my son to do that. I'm thinking about teaching him to make cocktails, because you know, that's the evening. So, you know, you start the morning out with coffee and then finish it off with rum in the evening, and that's my day. But so was it? So the thing that I found is, so I'm a big Viking coffee guy, but when so Evan sends me Viking coffee at the beginning of the month, but if I run out of Viking coffee before the next bags come, my go-to is actually Bustelo. Was that the coffee at the house? Or?
They drank a little Bustelo. My grandfather drank a lot of Bustelo, and he did that thing where he poured it through the stocking and the whole. But they were like Maxwell House people.
Right, yeah.
It was always
Bustelo
Maxwell
will
House.
light your hair on fire.
Yeah.
That stuff is good.
Yeah, and I've been out of the country a couple times, like when I was down in Costa Rica, and they had some stuff down there that you could just smell it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, man, I'm good.
Well, having traveled, like, we got off the plane when we went to Iceland for the first time, and for the only time, and we got off the plane, and that was the first thing we did was we went and got coffee, and it was just so much better than the stuff you were drinking here, because everything here is Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. The only difference is they give you this tiny little cup, everywhere that you go, you got like this 4-ounce cup of coffee where I'm drinking, I don't know what this, 16 ounces or something right now. So it was all difference. But the coffee was much better. And we're sitting here at Brewed Awakenings in downtown Vermilion. So.
Yeah, I'm having a smoothie, no whipped cream.
Right, yeah, they asked if you wanted whipped cream, and you said no, which was the correct answer. So they're not out yet because they're not awake yet, I would assume, but we should have protesters at some time on the street corner here in this little tourist town in Vermilion. So what's going on, Fred? The world's going nuts. The whole world's gone crazy.
I think I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's you could probably say that it's a century past the last time we went nuts, or is it every 100 years that we're losing our damn minds? But I have no idea. I know the internet's not helping.
It can't be helping. It can't be helping at all.
I said it's like giving a 3-year-old a ray gun,
Yep.
And just because he knows how to operate it doesn't mean he's doing the right thing with it.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of I have, for my own sanity, I have a rule now. No matter how stupid the thing you posted is, if it's before 10 o'clock in the morning or after 10 o'clock at night, I will not comment on it.
Right.
And it's saved me from ruining the beginning of my day and ruining the end of my day. Like, if you want to argue in that 12-hour period during the middle of the day, great. Okay, I'm up for it. But before 10 o'clock in the morning...
Not ruin your night or ruin your morning.
Right. I can't.
Yeah, the social media is definitely not helping. And I wonder where we would be, we're really the last time we saw something... Well, and just the protesting right now. I mean, forget about COVID, but just the protesting. I wonder how much, how wider spread it would have been during the Rodney King verdict if we had social media.
Right.
People were posting it out there. And what I see a lot on social media is not just people actually upset with what happened, but you have companies who kind of take advantage, not maybe take advantage, but they have to show that they're in the right camp, so they're posting all this stuff.
Right.
And then you have the virtue signalers who just want to scream to everybody, "I'm not racist," so they're just constantly posting things, and you wonder how genuine any of it is.
It's never let a good
crisis go to waste.
That's
Rahm Emanuel.
Yeah, that's exactly what we've got going on right now, and I see it's a lot of cover your ass.
Yeah.
Yep. I have to go out here and say that I'm completely against this, whatever, because if I don't, you're just gonna assume that. Because I see a lot of that. If you don't speak up, if you don't take a side, then you've chosen the side of the oppressor.
Yeah.
And I said, no, maybe not. Maybe I'm waiting for all the facts to come out.
Wouldn't that be a novel idea?
Yeah, before I choose my side. And you've got, because information is so immediate, right? Well, you have to pick a side right now. You have to pick a side. Right now,
Yep.
no, I don't, because information is immediate. Misinformation is immediate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you've given me all this, what you think is valid information. There's not enough time to figure out the validity of this stuff, you know? And then I come back 3 or 4 days later after I've checked something out, and I'm like, hey, you were wrong about
Right.
this, and this,
Yeah.
but they don't care. Oh, well, I still care about what, you know.
So that's a really good point. And we've just gotten out of the COVID thing, that was the whole thing, is we had information, quote unquote information, pushed out immediately as people got it, and then it would constantly change and morph. And one day masks are worthless, the next day that they're vital, and the next day they're worthless again, or it spreads by touching a surface, and then you touching the surface, and then maybe it doesn't spread that way, and then it goes back to it, and then, so we've just gone through this whole thing where misinformation, and again, you had camps, you had people who are wearing masks in their car by themselves,
Right, in their convertible.
right, yeah, right, and then you have people like us who, the only reason I wore a mask at all was because Erin was a nurse, and I think she felt like she should do it. So
right.
When we go places together, I would wear it. But there was no information, real solid information, and camps started to form. You were scared to death of COVID, and you were an asshole if you weren't scared to death of it because you're spreading it to everyone. Or I think we were kind of in the same camp that was kind of like, I don't know, this is, and now you find out there's a 0.02 death rate, which
right.
is like shark attack type death rates,
Yeah, my one buddy, he's always looking at, okay, what is our normal death rate for society at this point in time? And right now we're either at the average or we're below it.
Yeah.
We're not at this massive, 150%. We're not at that.
Yeah.
And so you get some people say, well, that's because we've been quarantining people and we've been whatever. And I said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm just a stupid ass mailman, but I see what I see.
Right.
I go out there, and for everybody on the internet who's claiming that they're being super cautious and all this stuff, well, I see you at your house without your mask on, playing with the neighbor kids, doing all this stuff, going to the store with your mask pulled down below your chin.
Yeah.
It's like, on Facebook you look like you're the safest person on the planet, but in real life I've seen you.
It's a new way to virtue signal.
Right.
Look how healthy I'm trying to be for everyone. Look how I'm trying to save everyone. And I think that's, we talk about the protesters here in Vermilion. And for those of you who don't know, my town that I live in is this little tiny beach community tourist town on Lake Erie. And I think the biggest, and they've been peaceful protesting the whole time, which is great. The biggest irritation for me is they're out on the corner alone with masks on. So I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Right.
Wide open, nobody around you, holding a sign that says Black Lives Matter, and then you have a mask on your face, which drives me insane.
Yeah, peace ninjas.
That's a great one. I like that. Peace ninjas.
It's
that should be one of your new shirts.
Yeah, right. I just, some of the stuff, it just doesn't make sense to me, and I get it. People are trying to be whatever, they're trying to be safe, or they're trying to be politically correct, or they're trying to be, but the constant shift of, because we grew up with milk is good for you, milk is bad for you, milk is good for you again, eggs, coffee, the whole, the amount of things, football practice, right? Don't drink too much water, you're gonna cramp, right?
Yeah.
Every coach in the world, don't drink too much water, you're going to cramp. And now, hydrate. You got to hydrate. So,
when we were kids, we were waiting for the coming ice age.
Right.
That was, we were going to all die from the coming ice age. And now it's global warming. all the information is just in the air, weird shit that
Right.
you're
And
taking
then,
for
and then when
granted.
when global warming didn't fit as a narrative, then it became climate change.
Right.
Right. Oh, we
Yeah.
have to change climate change, and I'm like, listen, again, I've never been on National Geographic,
Right.
but I think the nature of the climate is to change. You know, when you go out into the desert and you find seashells because this used to be an ocean.
Yeah.
You know, millions of years ago. I told people, if you want me on board with that camp, stop telling me climate change, stop telling me global warming. Just convince me we need to keep stuff clean. I'm all for clean air and clean water and not being a filthy pig and all that stuff. You can get me on board with that.
Right.
But when you tell me, I can buy carbon credits.
Come on.
Come
Who
on.
are we paying for that?
Right. You know, are they going out with a vacuum and sucking the carbon out of the air? Oh, Fred bought some carbon credits. Get out of here.
Well, I agree with you 100% there. We have a global change in temperature. Whether we have anything to do with that or if we have a lot to do with it is up for debate. I'm sure we have something to do with it, but it's going to change regardless. And what's been cool about the COVID thing is when they locked everybody down, you started seeing air quality improving drastically. You could see Mount Everest, not Mount Everest. Everest. You could see Everest for the first time from certain parts of the world where you could never see it before because the air was so clear. And how much damage we're actually doing and how they're saying it's irreversible as opposed to, well, we locked everybody down for a month and things started drastically improving. So again, that's another one of those camps where you have to be on one side or the other. You can't possibly go, well, I don't really know,
Right. Like I said, I'm all for clean and healthy and all that stuff, but when you've got a politician who flies around the world in his jumbo jets and his limousines and all this stuff saying that giving him some money is going to solve the problem, I don't believe it. I always, you go back to, the Mayans and the Incans and all that stuff. Like, hey, if you give us your firstborn or your crops or you sacrifice whatever, we're going to talk to the weather gods.
Right. Make sure everything's fine.
I said that we're at the modern day equivalent of that, where you can buy your way into the good faith of the weather gods here,
And if you don't, well, then you're just a meathead who's not paying attention or just is insensitive to everybody else's needs. And that's always is. It always goes to an attack. You can't just have a conversation with a person. I saw my cousin Gig. Her real name's Christine. We called her Gig. And Gig is a mid-50s woman, yoga instructor, living up in Massachusetts, flat out, full-on hippie. I mean, just to the nines. And I love her to death. I guarantee if we sat down like this at a table and had a conversation, there'd be a lot of things we don't necessarily agree on. But I bet you there'd be plenty of stuff in the middle of those two extremes where we would be able to talk and have conversations about a lot of things, But everyone, you can't do that. You have to be on one camp or another. And I think that one of my biggest fears with this when the COVID thing happened at first was, what is going on while all this madness is happening? Who's making moves behind the scenes? Who's profiting from it?
Right.
Who's seeing, oh, look how fast they locked down when they were just a little bit scared and we just put out just a little bit of information. And that was my biggest concern was and it kind of started when my friend Ryan made a comment. He was like, is this what I went across the world for and fought for the country for? That immediately everyone just locks themselves down and gives away all their rights as soon as they get a little bit scared?
Yeah, it was that again with the sitting back and waiting for more clear information. It's well, no, the government said it. You have to do it. Well, no, the government has said a lot of awful, wrong stuff in our lifetime, and the protests we're having here is because of history of government
Yes.
making bad decisions.
And that might be the most important point of all of this is these are government entities making bad decisions. So, first of all, I don't understand the attacking of a business in Pittsburgh for something that happened with police departments in Minnesota. Let's all go to Minnesota and protest.
Right.
And then when something bad happens in Pittsburgh, let's all go to Pittsburgh and protest. And let's not burn down shops of people who are just trying to make a living. And I'm a rabid libertarian, and the far side of that philosophy is I can kind of understand if you're that mad attacking a government building or government institution where that stuff came out of. And that's going to sound weird to people, but at least that's what you're actually mad at. You feel as though they're being tyrannical, and you're going to fight back. And I totally can get that from a philosophical point. I don't understand attacking a business, and I think that's where you have inside the protests themselves, you have several different factions. You have people of color in this country who are super pissed off and have been pushed down and pushed down and pushed down since the beginning of the country. You have people who are like, sweet, I'm getting some free Nikes. And then you have the agitators coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to smash this window. Maybe it'll start more violence and more protesting. And then who knows what other entities you have with inside those movements, whether they're government or,
right,
some kind of outside influence. I don't know what's going on.
I've had some conversations with the kid that runs. Young man.
I do that too. If they're under 40, they're kids.
Right, right. He runs the Lorraine Stop the Violence program.
Okay.
And we've had some conversations on his Facebook because when he got pissed off, he started to not be sensible about what the things he wanted to do.
Got emotional. Let his emotions run wild a little bit.
And I told him the reason you're having a hard time gaining me as an ally is that I see that you don't want justice, you want vengeance.
Right.
And that's where I'm all for you if you want justice. I'll march with you, whatever. But when I realized that what you want is vengeance, I know I can't get behind you. He says, well, you can't tell us how to protest. We're angry. And I said, no, I can absolutely tell you how to act when you're angry. I told him, if you're angry at your wife and you beat her, I'm not going to be okay with that. If you're angry with your kids and you beat them, I'm not going to be okay with it. If you're angry at your dog and you beat your dog, I'm not going to be okay with it. So if you're angry with your country and you start beating people and burning stuff and whatever, I'm not going to be okay with that either. There's being angry doesn't give you carte blanche.
Yeah, and you see that on both sides now too. So now the cops are pissed because they feel like this is a personal. And I get it. I understand that. So I've been in that. Yeah, I've been in the suits. I've been in with the shields. I've been there, and I get that. And a lot of these guys are probably the way I was, who was 21 years old, just ready for a fight, and really didn't give a shit who was on the other side of you. This is going to be party time. I've got all this testosterone running. I've been training my whole life. I'm just going to whip some ass. And then you have people who are probably generally mad that, they're not supporting the thin blue line or whatever, but their departments And that for all intents and purposes, that it looks like that Minneapolis Police Department had some major flaws and major problems, and that officer himself had several complaints. Should have been gone a long time ago. And I think that's the biggest problem. If you have a 21-year-old officer and he gets a little hyped, he's not used to combat, he gets after it, he gets too violent, and he hurts somebody or kills somebody, that's one thing. If you have, you prosecute him either way, but there's some understanding there. I fucked up. I'm a young kid. I did something really stupid, just like anyone who gets arrested when they're 21 years old. If you have a cop who's continuously doing this stuff, and you just let him go, and you keep bringing him back, and then you give him commendations, and whose fault is it? Is it your fault for letting a maniac patrol your streets, or is it the psychopath's fault for being on the streets? I mean,
yeah. At the end of the day, if you're the one in charge, that's on you. That's whoever's underneath you is your responsibility. I said, growing up in Lorain, the situation with the police was different because a lot of the people my dad grew up with, there was a lot of guys that were Lorain cops were guys that grew up in Lorain. They wanted to be police. Like my mom's side of the family, the Garcias, ton of police officers. Like they grow up, go to the military, and choose to join the police force. Like it's a family honor to become a cop. So my view of the police was different. The guy who just retired as chief of police in Lorain, Sal Rivera, his youngest daughter was my parents' goddaughter. My parents had 7 goddaughters.
What was her first name?
Linda.
I used to work with one of his daughters.
Linda. It was Linda and I'm gonna kill myself. Nikki.
Okay. Yeah.
So we were over their house all the time as kids, and I just had a different view of the cop. But my dad told me when I was a teenager, when I started kind of not running the streets, but being out without them, he said, I just want you and your friends to know that I gave the cops permission to whoop your ass if they catch you doing some nonsense. So if they drag you home and your skull's busted, I'll know that you were messing around, whatever. And so I always had that in the back of my head that, okay, my dad talked to them and told them, and I never had an issue with it, whatever, but there was a certain amount of respect I had growing up that adult authority figure, and don't misrepresent my family, right? Like, I felt worse about having somebody come to my house and just telling my folks that I had disappointed them.
Right.
It was I had a situation when the Super K first opened, right?
Yeah.
I'm 18 years old. I got nothing to do for the summer. So we're at Super K, and I knew one of the girls that worked there. She gave me the code to get on the PA system.
Nice.
Right? So I'm if you went into the bedding department, they stacked the pillows so high that the security camera couldn't see down to where the phone was, right? So I get on the phone in the bedding department, and in Spanish, I say all this stuff is on sale, right? So we go up to the register now, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, right? And we're watching all these people argue with the cashier because we just heard you say it was on sale, and then we're dicking around, we're racing shopping carts in the parking lot, that kind of stuff. So I go home, I go to bed. Like 3 o'clock in the morning, the light in my room comes on, right? I can see the light, my eyes are still closed, but the lights are on. My dad puts his foot on my throat. I open my eyes, and he goes, "No more dicking around at Super K."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
Close my eyes. He turned off the light. I come to find out that one of the guys that was working loss prevention there worked with my old man at the steel mill.
Right.
And he told him, yeah, your son was sticking around at Super K, and, you know, him and his friends were goofing around, and that was it.
And that was probably way better than what happens today, where you get brought home by the cops, or you end up, you know, they try to get you into the detention home, whatever. But he knew that that was going to be taken care of.
Right. And I think that just that we've lost this sense of community so much that the cops don't know that it's going to be taken care of, and the parents don't trust that the cop's going to take care of their kid. And you know, when I watched the rallies in Lorraine, the cops that they showed in the rallies in Lorraine, I'm like, oh man, I went to high school with that guy. I played football with that guy.
Yeah. You know all of them.
Yeah, and I might not have seen them in forever, but I still know we have a history. They're part of the community, and again, the respect level is a little different. So I think in these bigger cities, in your Clevelands, in your Minneapolises, and all that, where you get people who didn't grow up in the area. Yeah. They don't know that it's just a job to them. Yeah. They wanted to be a cop,
They're
whatever.
Playing Cowboys and Indians.
Right. And they show up, and all of a sudden, yeah, I'm gonna clean this town up. Right. I'm gonna and you just have a hard time with it. But a lot of it too is financially. You know, when Lorraine was booming back in the day, they could afford to have cops that patrolled the street, but also have cops that just went to the schools and showed their cop card to the kids, and led parades and did all that stuff. So again, our view of police from the time we were little was different, because we saw them all the time in an aspect that they weren't policing. They were just being. We looked at them the same as we looked at the lady who worked at the library, or you know, the firefighters, or the dude that worked at the ice cream store. They were just another part of the neighborhood.
Yeah, and you called him Steve because you knew him from high school.
Right.
You know, it wasn't. You know, I know McCann has talked about putting foot patrols back on the streets. And I think that's a great idea. You know, we studied community policing in college, and that was one of the things that they said was going away with these neighborhood patrols. I remember the scene from Untouchables where, you know, he walks up on Sean Connery for the first time, and Sean Connery's just walking down the street in probably the same neighborhood he grew up in, just spinning his baton around his finger, because he was just the guy in that neighborhood that they all knew. And everyone was a little bit, you know, scared of him, but they knew they were going to get a fair shake, or they at least knew what they were dealing with, because they knew him as a human, not as a badge who just stepped out of the car for the first time and were eyeball to eyeball. This town, we have a police force that has had major issues, but I don't know any of them. I don't know any of these guys. I don't know if they're local. I don't know if they, you know, moved here from Oregon because there was a job opening. And you know, there's something to be said about policing your own neighborhoods and having to live in the at least in the city where you are patrolling, because then you have a stake in it. You have a stake in that city. You know, it's not just your side against their side in there. And
yeah, that was. And I try to explain to people that when they're asking for solutions to the problems that we have, you know, my dad growing up in the 50s and 60s in Lorraine as a dark-skinned Puerto Rican kid, a lot of issues with race, you know. So what they did growing up, what they decided is, listen, if I have a problem with the cops or the judge or the lawyer or the whatever, we're just going to grow up and become those people, right?
Man, that's a great way to think about it.
I'm just going to grow up and become the cop. So now I don't have to worry about the cop. I'm going to grow up and become the lawyer. I'm going to grow up and become the judge. You know, you look in Lorraine now, and there's all these 65 to 70-year-old Hispanic guys who are in positions of power because they decided when they were young that, I'm not going to put this in anybody else's hands. I'm not.
Great way to look at that.
Yeah, I'm not just going to sit around and complain about the system, you know, like, because what's going to change? So they said, we'll go to school, or we'll go to the military, or we'll do whatever we got to do, that when it's time for me to get a job, I'm just going to take that job. Yeah. You know?
And I look at Lorraine PD, when you drive through Lorraine, it is a very good representation of the racial structure of Lorain.
Right.
You know, you see black faces in the cars, you see Puerto Rican faces in the cars. You know, it's a really odd city. We didn't have any violence, right? I mean, there wasn't violence. I mean, there was a lot of violent rhetoric, but there wasn't at the protests.
Right.
And I think Jim McCann, who is the new police chief, and a guy who I've known forever, and we were all a little sketched out, I think, when Jimmy took over, because Jimmy is a character, and he's funny, and we knew him as a cop, and a lot of people knew him as a kid, and it's hard to look at that person and go, oh yeah, this guy's going to be the guy who's in charge. But the way he handled those protests, I think, was fantastic.
Right.
You know, he went in there and said, hey, not only are we going to walk with you and keep you guys safe, but here's all the things I've already decided to implement, and we're going to put people in charge of reviewing these police brutality claims, and they're not going to be cops, and they're people in the community. I think people respect it for the most part, and they're going to be the ones making the calls on this stuff.
Right. And they you know, again, growing up in Lorain, you kind of have to be a character to survive over there.
100%.
If you're all to one side, you're not going to make it in Lorain. You got to be funny.
Yep.
You also have to command respect.
Yep.
You know, you have to be all these, because we're like a little snow globe over there, and we're welcoming if you're cool.
Yep.
If you're not cool, don't come by.
It reminds me of the old neighborhoods in Cleveland and New York. These cluster of neighborhoods. You know, you had the Jewish neighborhoods and the Italian neighborhoods and the Irish neighborhoods. The only difference with Lorain is they call it the international city, because everyone kind of has the same vibe.
Right. There was I had the luck of growing up in a neighborhood where almost all my neighbors were elderly immigrants, right? Hungarian, Czech, Polish, German, old Puerto Ricans, old Mexicans. We had old black families, and my dad always made it a point of telling me, yeah, I went to high school with them, or I grew up with them, or these people are friends with your grandfather and all that. And he said the respect came from, they all knew that when they came to Lorain, they had nothing. Everybody had nothing. You know, you just had faith and honor and work ethic. I walk around South Lorain, and the two things you see in South Lorain are bars and churches. We got a ton of them.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because back then, when you had nothing and you were working 16-hour shifts in a steel mill, you know, next to this other guy who didn't speak the language either,
yep,
and you got a mutual respect for each other. And after that shift, man, let's go get a beer.
Yeah.
You know, you go get a beer and find out that we have a lot more in common. And then the churches were more ethnically based. We have the Ukrainian church, and then Sacred Heart was the Puerto Rican church. So it was like, so you still stayed connected to that part of your community. So, a lot of time you get these people that they feel like if they mix with too much of a different culture that they're losing their own. So they get super closed off, and I think at South Lorain the church allowed you to still maintain your little bit of whatever your culture was, and then the bar allowed you to mix with whoever, and then you respected each other at work, and it just worked. And my dad always said, he said, at the end of the day, you just make sure that you're not the one that they're talking about that didn't get his work done. Like, that's it. He said, I don't care if you're black or white or brown or whatever. At the end of the day, the guy working next to you should be able to say, yeah, man, Freddie busted his ass. He busted his ass, and that's how
didn't leave me hanging.
Right. And that was it. And I think that we I think that with the age of the internet, where these people are connecting without ever meeting,
Yeah.
and it allows you to like find your tribe without being part of the community. Now you get these people that they have these wild misconceptions of what other people are, because they're not going out of their house and meeting them.
Right.
They're not interacting with them,
Shaking their hand.
And so when stuff pops off like it does now, everybody's super opinionated.
Yeah.
But they don't have any experience with people, so it's and then when you tell them, hey, I think you're wrong about how you feel about this, they get super offended, because they haven't been told they're wrong in so long. Because hey, I can go on the internet every day and just have a whole bunch of people who think exactly like me
that
tell
echo
me
chamber.
Right. All of a sudden, well, hey, maybe you're not right about that. How dare you?
Right.
I've got 1,200 people that tell me I'm absolutely correct.
I got 1,200 likes on that post.
Right.
I was reading John Locke this morning. John Locke was a political philosopher from, like, I want to say the 1700s. And I've just started getting into him. And he's making basically, that's one of the, and I don't have the quote offhand, but he was basically making that same point that, you need to have not just education, but experiences and have well read in order for your opinion to be valid. You can have all the opinions you want, but if you're not educated in all these different ways, you really don't have anything worthwhile to say. And social media gives you this opportunity to say whatever you want, whether you have any of those life experiences or educations or any of that stuff. And there's a big value into what we're doing right now, and we're just having a conversation with this mic in front of us or this phone in front of us, and I don't think that happens enough. I think that's gone, and it's crazy that the only way people are having these conversations and these philosophical talks is because they're going to get put out to the internet where other people can listen to them. And hopefully they listen to them. And hopefully everyone out there listening is like this, are sitting in this empty chair here and are just getting a vibe, And hopefully the next conversation they have, they'll be able to, maybe they're going to quote Fred Lozano and say, hey, I heard this podcast the other day where this guy said that, instead of whining about this, we went out and became the lawyers and police and doctors and,
my kid's 18. She's getting ready to go out into the real world. Yep. She's only ever been allowed to have like Snapchat and TikTok. That she's never had a Twitter or a Facebook or an Instagram, any of that stuff. So she's kind of been sheltered to a lot of the nonsense. I don't know whether that's good or not. We'll find out now.
I don't think any of us know which way is the right way to go with that.
But she's also never had cable TV, right?
That's huge.
She'll watch Netflix or any of that stuff, but it's not this constant barrage of the news and all this whatever. But she's I try to make it a point when I have conversations with her, especially if I have a bad thought about something, I try not to let her know, because I know that maybe her experience is going to be different, right? I growing up, my dad told me about all his bad experiences in Amherst, in Vermillion, and all these towns that he ran into a lot of racism. So I had a lot of that in the back of my head growing up, and so I would go to these places, and instead of looking for the good in a place, I was waiting for the bad. Right. And then what had happened, I was like, man, he was absolutely right.
Yep.
And I'm like, as I got older, I realized, no, man, you ignored the 99 good things that happened. You ignored the 99 great people you met because you're waiting for that one bad person to validate that one bad thought that you had. And so I'm trying not to do that with my kid, you know, because you see it with the cops. We have it in so many people's heads that cops are awful people that they're going to ignore the 99 great cops because they're waiting for the one bad cop, which we know exists. He's always going to exist.
Because there's one bad barista, and there's one bad doctor.
You know, so they're waiting for that one person to validate that negative view. Again, not that you're going to be naive and think that it's all sunshine and roses and everybody's perfect, but don't, you know, you're not going to let one raindrop ruin an amazing friggin' day, you know? And I think we're just in this habit of, I need to validate this negative thought. You know?
Well, I think one of the things that helps, and you've said it before, is getting out and traveling and seeing the rest of the country. And the best thing that happened to me being a kid from Amherst, well, so when I was a kid in Amherst, my best friend was a Puerto Rican, Frankie Santiago. And what was interesting to me coming from an Italian family was that our families weren't that much different.
Right.
You know, we both, well, my grandmother did, you know, had the Virgin Mary in the window, and, you know, wasn't that much different. The smells weren't that much different, you know, from the food cooking and stuff like that. But, and I think of the kids I grew up in the neighborhood, and what they were I think they were like Puerto Rican families that moved from Lorraine because they kicked ass at the steel mill or at Ford for years, and like, hey, I'm going to buy this nice little house in this quiet neighborhood, you know. So you started to get that in there. But getting into Highland games when I did, and I started when I was 16, and I turned pro when I was 21, and immediately got to see the world, and got to go to, you know, Calgary and Portland and Iceland and, you know, all these other places. And I got to see people interacting and coming from all these different socioeconomic backgrounds and had all these different thoughts. And, I took a trip in Alaska up to a glacier with Harrison Bailey, and the only thing we had in common was that we both threw. He was a black guy from Philadelphia, and I was a white kid from Amherst, Ohio, you know, and we just went up and had a good time hanging out on this glacier for the day. But I think it's the most important thing you can do, because I look at myself, and there's, you know, like you said, Amherst is Amherst, you know, but I look at some of the people when you go there and you go into a bar, and like you said, 99% of those people are great, but maybe there's that 1% that still have those old bullshit ideas. And I think, you know, here by the grace of God, that I had some friends when I was a little kid who were of a different background, and I got to see the world, because I could end up like one of those guys on the stool, you know, and just filled with hate constantly for no apparent reason, you know.
I've never understood it. God, I think by the time I was 12, I'd been up and down the entire East Coast.
Yeah.
We'd been from Florida to Maine. My dad always made it a point to go on some obscure vacation. Now, as a kid, I'm thinking, none of this is exciting. Right? Like, who in the hell goes to Maine?
Right. Why am I in Rhode Island for spring break?
You know, it stinks up here. There's a lot of weird people. You know, we went to Plymouth Rock in Massachusetts. We got to see all this stuff. So, but as an adult, I said, holy crap. My dad really made a point of showing me that for as much as I love Lorraine, for as awesome as Lorraine is, it's not the world. There's so much different out there. And we went on all these obscure little trips. You know, we went to see the Blue Hole over here. All this, you know, I think we went to every little rinky-dink museum in Ohio, and it was, you know, it was my dad's way of kind of culturing us just in our area, and again, showing us that your 4 square blocks of your neighborhood is not the world. It's not anywhere near the world. So get out and go see. By the time my daughter was 12, I had made sure she'd seen both oceans. I took her to the Atlantic when she was 10. I took her to the Pacific when she was 12. We've done a lot of little traveling, and I think it's important. But still, even for as well traveled as I am, I still have these misconceptions about places sometimes because society puts it in your head that. And every time I catch myself doing it, I'm like, God, for me being as well traveled as I am to still do this, how bad off are the people who haven't traveled at all?
At all.
Like how awful are their thoughts on an area? Because I went to Paris. And people in Paris are rude. They're mean. Right. They don't like Americans. Blah 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 blah. So I went to Paris with this chip on my shoulder. I loved it. That's one of my favorite places ever.
Yeah.
The people were really nice. The food was fantastic. It wasn't stinky like everybody tells you. And I felt like such an asshole for showing up there with this belief that Paris was going to be this awful thing.
Those people that come back and say that stuff, what kind of how are they representing this country over there? I was in line for the hotel in Iceland. And I'm already a little bit worried about being in Europe and the perceptions Europeans have of us. And I don't know, because it was my first trip to Europe, and I'm over there, and in front of me in line is this guy who's bitching that there's only 3 channels in his room, and 2 of them are in Icelandic. And he's giving hell to who I find out later is a Portuguese guy who knows Portuguese, knows Spanish, knows French, came up here, learned Icelandic, knows English. Here's this well-traveled, well-educated guy working in a hotel because he loves Iceland, and he's just getting shit on by this American baby boomer. And I'm just sitting there behind him going, here we go. And now this guy's going to leave, and I'm going to get shit on and I'm getting more and more embarrassed. And the first thing I did was come to the guy, and I just apologized to him. And he's like, it's not just Americans. I get this from people from all over the world, just people who are angry for no reason. Like, what, you're sitting in your room? You're in fucking Iceland. Go out and see stuff. Who cares what's on TV,
I, again, same thing when I was in Paris. My friend wanted a coffee at McDonald's. I'm like, listen, we're in Paris. Why are we going to McDonald's? She's like, I just want to go to McDonald's, whatever. So we walk into McDonald's. And it's completely different. They got macaroons for sale. They got a whole like Parisian bakery inside of McDonald's.
Royale with cheese, like full fiction.
I'm like, holy crap! What is this in the McDonald's, right? So the girl working at McDonald's, in the 15 minutes we were in McDonald's, I heard the girl speak to 4 different people in 4 different languages, right?
Right.
And I'm like, again. Here in America, we think that our McDonald's workers are dummies.
Yeah.
We don't give them any respect. We don't, just people trying to earn a living, right? Here I am, this educated man, well-traveled, whatever. I don't speak 4 languages.
Right, yeah.
And she's doing it with such ease. It humbled the hell out of me. I was like, God, I'm a dummy. I barely speak 2 languages.
We have, the Target here has a Starbucks in it, and first time I go in there all the time, but I went in there one time, and there's a new barista working behind the counter, and I hear her talking to one of the other baristas, and I can tell she has a Russian accent. Well, I took 2 years of Russian in high school because we were still in the middle of the Cold War, and they thought, if you were going into criminal justice, you should probably take Russian because you might end up being in federal law enforcement. Anyhow, I barely remember any of it. But I walked up to the counter, and she's back there, and I said hello to her in Russian, and her eyes just got huge. And I asked her name and how she was doing today, and she was so excited. She gave me my coffee, and then I said thank you in Russian, and she started crying, and she said, no one spoke to me in that language in a year. It was so nice. I said, well, don't expect it too often because this is basically all I can remember.
Right.
But she could not be happier that not only had I spoke to Russian, but just that I had gone through the effort of trying to make her feel a little bit more comfortable, So I think that's the most important thing we need to do as a society is just stop stepping on each other's toes all the time for no fucking reason. You
Right.
know?
We think we have this case of like we constantly have to prove we're the big man.
Yes.
You know?
100%.
And it's like, you know, listen, we all watch the old movies, right?
Yep.
We all watch the John Wayne and the Clint Eastwood and the whatever, and John Wayne didn't have to step on anybody's toes. You know, yeah. One of my favorite movies is The Quiet Man.
Oh yeah.
You know,
watch it every St. Patty's Day.
And he absolutely in that movie. He didn't want to have to flex on anybody. He just wanted to play. Hey man, we can get along. I respect you. You're just leave me alone. Don't push me. I'm not gonna push you. Mutual respect. End of the movie. He gotta go whoop some ass.
Yeah.
You know.
Gotta do what he's gotta do to keep the wife.
Right. And it was just a great. You know, so many great lessons in this movie. I watched McClintock.
Yeah,
right?
that's a good one.
Same thing in that
you
movie.
You couldn't make that movie nowadays. He
No.
spanks the wife with
Right.
the shovel.
In that movie, when he offers that kid a job.
Yeah.
You know, and the kid wants to fight him because you don't give me. I'll earn a job if I wanted it. It's like
I never had to beg before.
Right.
And he said, son, I don't give jobs. I hire men.
Yeah.
There's a difference there.
And it was just that mindset. Because you look at now, you know, back to how currently things are, and the amount of people that I've heard say, "I'm just going to stay on unemployment."
Yeah, that's
right.
Rough.
Why? What is it in you that you're okay with just sitting around and getting a handout and not
pulling your weight?
Right.
That for a lot of kids nowadays, I think that isn't as important as it used to be, how well you do your job. And, you know, I live a fantastic life right now, knock on wood. You know, I've got a beautiful wife, a kid who I don't deserve because he's way better than I was at everything from, you know, mentally to physically, just, you know, he's a good kid. I have a job that I wake up in the morning and I explode out of bed to go do. But I did 19 years of a really shitty job that was horrible, but I just grinded it out because I didn't want to let the guy next to me down, you know. And that work ethic, if you can give a kid in 2020 that work ethic, just go out and grind until you find a way to make it better, they're going to rule the universe because the kids just don't have it.
Yeah. When my daughter decided she wanted to start working, my parents never let me work growing up. You got to concentrate on your studies.
Yeah,
you got to,
yeah.
And I try to explain to my parents that studying doesn't mean anything to, like, school is easy.
Right.
You know, I was one of those naturally gifted kids. I scored the highest in my school, my PSATs, and I scored really high on my other. But I didn't like school. It didn't challenge me. I wanted to be an art major. My parents were like, "No, you're not gonna. You're too smart to be an art major." Like imagine, not that I'm Michelangelo or Da Vinci or anybody, but imagine telling one of those guys, "Wait, you're too smart to be an artist."
Yeah.
Right.
Da Vinci was pretty goddamn smart.
Right. You know, so. But I try to explain to them that if you let me work, then it makes me more well-rounded, right? Because now I have to. Because as an adult, I'm gonna have to handle working and taking care of the house and doing all these things. So when my kid decided that she wanted to get a job while she was still in high school, my parents, the same mindset. No, you want it? And I was like, no, go get a job.
Yeah.
You know, go start seeing what it's all about. And her work ethic right now is crazy. Yeah. You know,
you can do it.
Yeah, she keeps the house clean. She still plays softball. She goes to work. Her grades never suffered.
Yep.
You know, I just like this mentality of some parents now where they want to protect their kid, but they don't ever want to let them fall down. And it's
Yep.
like, no, falling down is where the learning happens.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're stunning the growth of these. That's why we have 28-year-old guys with 16-year-old mentalities.
Yeah.
You know,
or 40-year-old guys with that.
yeah.
You know.
And I said, I just don't. I'm just not of that mindset, and because of that, I get in a lot of fights on Facebook.
Yeah, you know Sean Shoemaker from BSS, and I got on him the other day because, you know, especially during the quarantine when all the businesses were locked down and the gyms were really getting crapped on because no one was paying attention and no one was putting them back to work, and we were actually getting some hostility from the governor, like, these places are disgusting, we're not putting them back. He was getting more and more angry, and you could see it in his social media stuff because he would start arguing with people. And finally I got on, I said, stop it, put it away. And he just needed that reminder to snap him back. He's like, you're right. He goes, because he was like me, and like when I get on Facebook, very rarely do I engage in anything. I post something, usually from Instagram, and then I just go away, you know, and you can say whatever you want. If someone tags me in something, I'll go see what it is, you know, but rarely do I engage in that. And I work hard. The cool thing on the iPhones is that screen time usage. It tells you how much,
right? And
it becomes a game for me. How low can I get my screen time every week, you know? And there's stuff I have to be on for the business, but the majority of the time I spend, probably like everybody, is just on nonsense.
I try to tell people that I'm not an emotional guy. I'm almost never operated from an emotional standpoint. Not that I don't get emotional or anything like that, but my thought process is, if I feel a certain way, then I mentally process that, and then that becomes whatever my reaction is. I don't go straight from emotion to reaction.
Right.
You know, I have one more filter than a lot of people do. So it goes from emotion to thought to action. So I said, if you see me starting a fight on Facebook, if I'm the one that starts it, understand that I've already thought about it. Right? So there's gonna come a point where you're gonna run out of emotion, and I'm still gonna have all the thought, and I'm just gonna beat you down, and then you're probably just gonna call me a name and block me on Facebook.
Oh, that's how you know you win. Right.
And my you know, my buddy Barry laughs all the time because he'll see me every once in a while. I'll bait someone. I'll post something that I know is gonna start an argument because I've already had that argument in my head, and I've already finished that argument. But I'll post something on Facebook, and Barry's like, he'll text me, what are you doing? I just
stirring the pot for
right. I'm like, I just feel like we need to have a conversation about this, you know?
Yeah, I think that, again, it goes back to people who aren't thinking about the subjects. They're getting their information from what, you know, what does The Rock think about this? Well, if The Rock thinks about that, I like The Rock, I should think that way too. Not that I don't know if The Rock has said anything, but just throwing a name out there. You know, they just kind of look for ways that they think they should feel instead of actually taking the time to investigate both sides of these things and figure out what is actual information and what is a lot of emotion coming out. And one of the issues comes from the fact that there's no legitimate sources of information out there. Everything has this tilt one way or the other, so you're not sure what you're getting. So it comes down to really having to think about these things and how you feel about a certain issue, not how some talking head tells you to think about it. And, you know, a lot of people will listen to like Rush Limbaugh and just their whole argument comes from Rush Limbaugh, you know, verbatim.
Yeah, I listen to him because I need to know, okay, what's that side saying? So I take that. I think the difference between me and a lot of people is I take that simply as information. Okay, this is information. It's not gospel.
Right.
So let's take that information. Let me get the information from the other side.
Right.
I'm gonna filter out all the bullshit, And then what's left standing?
Yeah.
You know, what do we have left here? And people like him and the other talking heads, they all have their jobs because they know how to sprinkle in enough truth, right? I'm gonna sprinkle enough truth in there that you'll just, if you want to, you'll just assume that the rest of it is truth.
Right.
Right.
And I'm going to outrage. I'm going to get you outraged so you keep listening.
Right. And I'm the type that, let's run this through a filter first.
Yeah.
I'll take the little bits of truth for what they are, and then the rest of the bullshit, we're going to call it bullshit. But like right now, again, back to the protests and stuff, I've kept kind of quiet on it because on one hand, we're discussing something that needs to be discussed. But on the other hand, we made a martyr out of somebody who wasn't a great person.
No.
Right?
No. And you know what? If you have a lot of interactions with police officers, like he had,
right,
you're probably not a great person.
Right. So it's like, do I believe in the cause? Yeah, as you should. Do I believe in the person?
No. Yeah.
No. But
he also had COVID. They could have made it a COVID death.
Right.
I'm not sure which would have irritated me more.
So it's one of those situations where I'm like, listen, I'm not all or nothing with this, but the part that makes sense, I'm for. The part that doesn't make sense, I'm not. And it doesn't invalidate the whole. You know, it's not, just because the guy wasn't a great guy doesn't mean that you throw the whole thing out.
Right.
But at the same time, just because it's a cause that needs to be addressed doesn't mean that we ignore the fact that he wasn't
You could ignore him altogether.
Right.
And the cause is just. Matter of fact, you're probably better off ignoring him altogether and just going with the cause. And I think the majority of police officers, at least the ones, and I talk to a bunch because they're in the gym, they seem to be not only on board with the cause, but totally against everything that happened in that situation.
Right.
And so I worked in corrections for 19 years, and again, we're dealing with Lorain County Corrections, so it was a microcosm of the whole county. So you had black faces and white faces and Puerto Rican faces and Mexican faces and all these guys coming together. And both my training officers were black guys. And first of all, they were way harder on the other black guys than I ever was. They were vicious. Like, not physically, but just get your shit together. But there was never a time where we were sitting together and it was just like, we're just going to go out and whip somebody's ass today. It's the last thing you want to do, just from the pure aspect that now your 8-hour shift is a 9-hour shift because you just have to do paperwork. Just from that one little aspect of it, nobody wanted to get into anything, And so I think it was good that I had training officers like that because I learned how to make my job, because your job as a corrections officer, hopefully, just like it would be walking the beat in your neighborhood, is just to keep everything under wraps. Have no big problems that day and just go home, make sure everything's cool. Somebody comes to you because somebody's stealing their shit, you got to deal with that. Somebody comes to you and they need toilet paper, you got to deal with that, and it's just keeping everything. Don't be the spark that sends everything off, and you can't be that way when you're a cop either, but I think going back to walking a beat would really help in a neighborhood that you're from.
That would it's little stuff. Everybody's waiting for these grand gestures. Right. Oh, we're gonna change this entire thing all at once.
We're gonna defund the police.
Right.
What?
Right. Because half of the problem is they don't have the proper funding.
Yes.
They were when all the nonsense was going on in Cleveland. I had some buddies that said, "Man, we should really be rolling the old Cleveland cop cars out." So that if they burn those, we can get new cop cars. Like we have this issue where these cop cars have holes in the floor and half of the stuff's not working. Like, man, roll those out and let them burn those.
Right.
And then we kill two birds with one stone. I just don't. We're at a phase where people just want to be angry. They want to be justified in their anger. It's like, are we missing an outlet? Is there something? Are we as humans just not capable of peace for this long?
Right. Yeah.
You know, I heard somebody say one time. He said, "Man's resting state is war."
Yeah.
You know, and that you always hear people say we have to work for peace, right? Well, if you have to work for peace, that means that it's not natural.
Yeah.
It's just. So are we at a phase where we've just been at peace for so long that...
Well, there's a lack of struggle in general, right? So all these kids, you know, you look at these kids that are out violently protesting, and you don't see big jack dudes, you know, going out protesting. What do you see? You see little white kids who probably live in their parents' basements. They haven't had to struggle at all. So this is a struggle. This mental thing is a struggle for them. You know, being quarantined is a struggle for them.
Right.
You know, it was a struggle for. I told my parents yesterday. I said the only problem I had with quarantine as a human was the fact that I couldn't open my business. I was okay with less interactions with people and staying in my house and not going to restaurants. I was okay with that, but that isn't a struggle. You know, we just passed D-Day yesterday. That was a struggle.
Right.
You know, those were hard men. Those were savages. You know.
I was watching a video of some guys trying to break a bank window. You know, they're taking turns with a sledgehammer and they're trying to break a bank window. And as sick as it is, my first thought was, look at how out of shape these guys are trying to break this window. They would take 3 swings and hand it to somebody else because they were already exhausted. Yeah.
I saw guys flipping a car over, and there must have been like 10 or 15 of them, and they're rocking the car back and forth to get it to flip. And I remember my boy Steve Pulcinella, who was in World's Strongest Man 1994, doing that by himself.
Right.
And then he had to do it twice. He'd roll 2 cars and then run across the finish line.
Yeah, it's... Again, I wasn't a tough kid growing up. I grew up in a tough neighborhood, but I wasn't a tough kid growing up. You know, I didn't lift weights until I was 14, and even then, we didn't know what the hell we were doing.
None of us did, right?
You know, I never went to the military. Never been in a fight in my life. Never backed down from one. But I used to bounce and that stuff, but I've never had to get in a scrap with anybody. But I said, these kids nowadays make me feel like a badass. Like, I feel like I'm Charles Bronson compared to how soft everybody is and how quickly their feelings get hurt, and
that's a big one.
And how much they want to lash out because they can't process any amount of difficulty. You know, it's, again, back to football. You know, the way our coaches talk to us.
Oh, my God.
Called us piece of crap, worthless, whatever.
Grabbing your face mask, slapping you in the head, you know.
Nowadays, that coach would have to go get counseling. You'd never get a job again.
Yep.
You know, these kids would probably be getting a check from the government for being damaged, and it's like, no, that was the coaches telling us life's not going to be fair, and it's not always going to be fun, and it's going to kick the crap out of you sometimes, and you just deal with it. The most important thing I ever learned from football was 2 words: get up.
Yeah, right.
You know, because freaking every 30 seconds you were getting knocked on your ass.
Yeah.
You know,
Hayden got leveled during the Firelands game last year, and I mean, just leveled. And I wasn't even at the game. We were in New Orleans for our anniversary, and he got leveled, snapped 2. Trainer was over top of him. She was trying to help him up. He said, "I'm getting up." She's like, "No, just lay here." He's like, "No, I'm getting up because if my father sees this and then I run off the field, he's going to kill me." So he ended up getting up and running off the field because I have that thing where if they have to help you up off the ground and you lay on the field for 20 minutes and then you run off the field like no big deal. He was very concerned with, I got to get up this field on my own power. And that's just a simple lesson, you know. Don't be a bitch.
Yeah, but you look now. You know, so we're talking about football, and you look at the NFL now, right?
Yeah.
It's everybody in the NFL now is a commodity,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
They have value. These are $1 million athletes, and as $1 million athletes, now we have to protect them,
Yep.
right? Football was more fun when the athletes weren't worth anything, when they were gladiators,
right.
when we, you know, I go back to the Ronnie Lott story.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. People tell that story. People probably don't know it.
They you know, he damages his pinky, and they tell him, we can either bandage this up and then you're done, you know, or we could cut it off and you go back in the game. He said, cut it off.
Yeah.
And there's guys now, they stub their toe and they're out of the game for 3 quarters. You know, Ronnie Lott's like, yeah, cut my finger off.
Right.
I need to get back in the game. And it's such a crazy mindset, but they just couldn't be seen as somebody who's not, I'm not going to do my job because I've
my weight again.
Right. I've run into some difficulty, whatever. Was it always great, that mindset? No, because you had all the concussion guys that probably shouldn't have been going back in the game, and they're going in the game and all that. But I think the pendulum swung too far. Yeah. The one direction, you know. So now you've got these guys that they don't want to get hurt physically, and now we're pushed to the point where you can't speak your mind anymore in the NFL. Again, you're a commodity, and you represent the company, and you can't speak your mind. I'm watching all the Drew Brees stuff right now.
Oh, yeah. You know? He folded like a lawn chair, didn't he?
You know, and it's like, I tell people he has more in common with Colin Kaepernick than he knows. And what that is that they both learned a very hard lesson in that even if you say the right thing, if you say it at the wrong time to the wrong people, it's going to cost you.
And they both had faith in their convictions.
Right.
They were different convictions, but they both had a stance.
I said the only difference between Brees and Kaepernick is that Brees called the audible real quick.
And Kaepernick never did.
He
Stuck by that forever.
And I told you know, when we were having arguments about the Kaepernick stuff, I was trying to explain to people that, again, it's not that I don't believe in the cause, right? But the guy's got to be smart enough to see that this game plan isn't working. And I said that's why he was a bad quarterback too, because he was a one-trick pony. He only knew how to do one thing, and once the defense figured out what that one thing was, his career was over. You know, I said, if you lose your job to Blaine Gabbert, you suck. Blaine Gabbert is terrible. And you legitimately lost your job to that guy. Right? So, but it was the same when he started to be an activist. It was like, hey, you did this thing. The way you're doing it is not working. You might want to adjust. No, I don't want to adjust. I want to do this thing like this, whatever. And the biggest mistake he made was he allowed his message to get hijacked. You know, it was like, no, man, you have an opportunity to speak to the entire world on this. But instead of doing it, you want to be stubborn. You want to teach the NFL a lesson. You know, you want to be bullheaded about this thing, and the message. It took another guy getting killed for this message to resurface. Right? When you could have just adjusted. Listen, you could have held a press conference before every game, after every game. Nike could have sponsored town forums, all this. You had our attention. And you lost it when you didn't want to give any kind of concession to people that were legitimately bothered. You know, I have my cousin that retired from the Navy, 30 years in the Navy. It bothered him, right? But when he says it bothered him, well, you must be a racist. He's like, no, I'm Puerto Rican, you ass.
Yeah, right.
I'm a veteran. I've been all over the world, and this bothers me. And what I tried to equate it to, so listen, if we go to Thanksgiving, right? And I got a problem with my cousin so-and-so, who's a piece of crap, right? I don't make a scene during grace, right? When my grandma says, hey, it's time to say grace, I don't care if you don't believe in grace. I don't care if you don't believe in God. I don't care if you think grace is a waste of time. This is your grandma's house, and she's saying grace, right? You put your head down, you fold your hands.
Yep.
It's 2 seconds long. It's grace, right? Bring up your issue with your cousin before grace. Bring it up after grace. But during grace, you're not going to do anything but piss your grandma off.
Yeah, right.
And then piss your uncle off. And then you're going to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't. And I said, from whatever people think about the national anthem, whether they believe in the country or not, whatever, that's our 2 minutes of grace.
Yeah.
Before we're starting this event. And he said, man, I don't care about your grace, right? And so people were like, well, fuck your message. I don't believe in that. And so you get Drew Brees that comes and says, yeah, man, I don't believe in people disrespecting the flag or whatever. And well, you're a racist and whatever, despite the fact that you gave $32 million to the city of New Orleans to rebuild it after all the hurricanes and whatever. But he realized quickly, right message, wrong time.
Yep.
He stepped on his own dick, and now he's paying the price for it. I said, Kaepernick was so hard-headed that he wasted what was a great opportunity. Because now you see the NFL backpedaling now. Oh man, we were wrong about Kaepernick. No, you're covering your ass because you're covering your ass because you don't think you're gonna get fans in the stand with the COVID stuff, right?
Which is my whole point of this whole thing.
Right. You don't think you're gonna get fans in the stands, so you need as many viewers as you can get. And if they do allow fans in the stands, so this is, if COVID had never happened, the NFL wouldn't be apologizing to Kaepernick now.
No.
Not at all. F you, we're the juggernaut. We're still going to have all these fans show up for our stuff. So I'm like, now I'm mad at the NFL even more. I'm like, you disingenuous sons of bitches.
And that's what it is. It's disingenuous. Look, I'm a white kid from Amherst, Ohio, so I don't have the lens to see every for the vast majority of my life, every interaction I've had with police has been positive. So I don't have that lens. Doesn't mean I can't understand your lens. I get it. Your lens is totally different than mine, so I get it. And I don't have to be out on a street corner with a sign, and my silence isn't racism. I don't have that lens, and it's not an issue that has ever made me stay up at night angry or anything like that. But I get it, and I'm all in favor of you protesting against injustice. Don't burn my shop down though, because then you're gonna get revolvers. That's just the way it is. Because that's mine. You're stepping on my toes now, and I didn't beat anybody up, didn't kill anybody, and I actually support you. So leave me alone and go attack the courthouse in Minneapolis if you want to.
Yeah, that was that when you had these people justifying, and by these people I mean people who like to break shit. They were justifying it with, well, these places have insurance, right? You have insurance. Well, did you ask the people whose building it was if they can afford their deductible, right?
Or be without business.
Right. We've been shut down for so long, again, because of the COVID. Yeah. They're hanging on by a thread, right? The girl with the colossal cupcakes downtown Cleveland, she was hanging on by a thread. And they smashed her place up, and she doesn't know if she's going to make it. And she said, listen, the business, part of it, whatever. But she said I had family mementos in there. There's stuff that's irreplaceable. The insurance is not going to cover, my grandma's knick-knack or the last picture I had of my grandfather or whatever. Like if they would have burned down the brewery, we had a good we had a good buddy of the brewery, John Gargis, who he passed away. Mm-hmm. And there were so many pieces of John Gargis in the brewery.
Yeah.
So if they would have burned that place down, all those last mementos of John are gone, right?
And I didn't even think of it that way.
And it's like, sure, okay, there's no mementos in Target. So if you're going to burn down the Target, I understand what you're saying, but you didn't stop at Target. You went to the little mom and pop shops.
Right.
And you were smashing those windows and burning those places down, and for what? And right, you didn't burn down the courthouse. You didn't go to the Justice Center and burn that down.
Yeah.
So you're misguided, and there's no. Long story short, we get to a point where lack of leadership, right? Like, who's leading this protest? Who are we looking to for guidance to say, hey, we need to get this message across. Right. It's important, right? So let's focus our energies. Let's stop being a wildfire.
Yeah.
And start being a flamethrower, right?
And start getting meetings with people. Okay, we understand you're mad. Let's sit down and figure this out.
Right. And it can't be the same old voices.
No.
It can't be the same old voices because we've already proven we're not listening to those old voices.
Right.
I want to hear the.
And those voices are corrupt, just like everybody else. You can't put Al Sharpton up there and say that this is a guy who has your best wishes in mind, because Al Sharpton has always been a baiter. He's always been in for the money. You got to put leaders out there who are new and have new ideas and have actually struggled.
Right. And that's what I see is lacking right now.
On all sides.
On all sides. I still listen to a lot of. Underground hip hop. Mm. The stuff that's on the radio is garbage.
After 1992, I stopped.
Yeah.
I need Public Enemy.
There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of hip hop guys right now that their stuff's not getting played on the radio at all. But it's great, and their message will remind you of Public Enemy and that type of music. And they're saying
soul.
They're saying everything that needs to be said. Like the social narrative that's in their music is so on point.
Yeah.
And it's like, but nobody's hearing this.
Yep.
Nobody's hearing it. It's not on the radio. If somebody's not looking for this, they're never gonna find it.
Well, and it's on the. So like, I hate country music too. Matter of fact, I am not a fan of any music after 1992.
Right.
But like, you've got these guys like Tyler Childers and Sturgill Simpson on the countryside.
Sturgill Simpson's amazing.
Yeah. He's talking about mushrooms and psychedelics in a country song. You ain't gonna play him on the radio.
No.
I saw there was a great picture of him outside the CMA Awards with his guitar case on the ground playing, where people are putting tips in there, and he's the one who should be in there getting the awards.
I listened to a ton of country music growing up, and people always thought it was weird because we're Puerto Rican. What the hell you guys listen to country music? And my dad always said that Puerto Rican music is just country music in Spanish.
Right.
We're singing about the same stuff.
Yeah.
We're talking about the same stuff. So I went down to Nashville, and I went to Opryland.
Love Nashville, yeah.
And it's funny because my friends are like, dude, you were like legitimately excited. And I'm like, yeah, I grew up on Willie Nelson, and Waylon Jennings, and all this.
That's what I like.
My dad always joked that he was going to marry Crystal Gale. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure she's excited about that.
Yeah.
But again, you heard there was so much connection, so much social messaging in that music. And then when they wanted it, like, I don't listen to country music now unless it's these people that aren't getting any radio play.
Yep.
it's what do they call it? Hick hop.
Yeah.
It's
Just throw a cowboy hat on a guy,
Right.
and all of a sudden he's a country singer. It drove me nuts. Yeah, I can't listen to it. I don't listen to much music anymore because of that.
There's a lot of I kind of fell into. There's a lot of British singers who are into singing like 60s soul, and it's the craziest thing because you're like, when in the hell did London become this hub for 60s soul music? And you got a little taste of it with Amy Winehouse. Like Amy Winehouse had
her.
that kind of
Yeah,
60s soul.
I liked her.
So there's a bunch of little artists kind of that have the same vibe as her.
Yeah.
Not gonna hear them on the radio.
Right.
But you hear them singing, you're like, man, I really like this. And then you're like, oh crap, they're British.
Right.
Like, what? Where's our American soul artists?
It's too hard. It's too hard to become an artist. So the kids in this country don't do it.
And I think like with being overseas or anything like that you're free to go into whatever genre you want because you aren't going to make it anyway. So why not just sing what I want to sing? Where here in America, they're like, if you want to make it, you have to go down this specific path. You have to be an American Idol, or The Voice, or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're going to make it, the days of you being a street corner singer that makes it are over in this country. You can go and do your YouTube thing or whatever, but if the American music industry doesn't think they can monetize that, sorry, you could be the best singer in the world, and it's just not going to happen for you. I go see a lot of local artists, and it's like, why is this person playing at the Black River Landing? And I gotta listen to freaking Ariana Grande. That Disney pipeline that just keeps pumping out these pop stars. I'm like, I'm sick.
That would be strippers.
Sick of that.
That by all rights, we're probably going to be strippers. They're not pop stars,
And not that I have a problem with strippers.
No, they need you have a talent,
I always tell people I've never been to a strip club. I've been to the Interpretive Dance Academy. It's an Interpretive Dance Academy for single mothers.
Yes.
I was giving out $20 scholarships.
Doing your part.
Right. So I've donated to their education, but no, I've never been to a strip club.
Yeah, we had Logan Bruce on the podcast.
I listened to that.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Just pulling himself up from the depths of humanity, to finally, be sober and making music and having 1 million likes on his music when he puts it out.
There's a local girl here, that Maddie Finn. If you've never
heard that name.
Yeah, Maddie Finn. She was with a group called Whiskey Hollow.
Okay.
And she went down to Nashville for a while, and I think she's back up in this area. But anytime she's playing anywhere around here, I'm like,
I'll have to go check her out.
She played last year's Beer Fest in Lorraine.
Mm-hmm.
They had her open, and I said, whoever organized it must not be aware of who she is or how good she is, because she's not an opener. Right. You have her when the place is packed and you've got a nice crowd in there. That's when you bring her on, because she's absolutely just kicks ass.
Yeah.
So I felt awful because she's there in the very beginning. There's like 10 people there, and she's playing her heart out. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You got to be aware of what talent you got. You don't stick somebody with that much talent, that much chops. Again, not that I'm a music promoter or anything, but if you've looked at any of her YouTube videos or anything, you go, yeah, no, she's not going out first.
Right. Yeah. She's got something. We went and saw Colin Hay a couple years ago. Colin Hay was the lead singer of Men at Work. And we went to go see him in a cathedral in downtown Cleveland, across the street from Cleveland State University.
Yeah.
what an amazing show. And it's just this church, this old church. He's playing in front of the stained glass windows, and I was like, from me to the counter to him, you know. And what an amazing show. And every time he'd curse, he'd look back towards the stained glass windows, you know. They're serving wine and beer in the lobby of this church. It was like, wow, this is amazing, you know. Amazing venues and amazing artists, and no special effects or pyro or, you know, booty shorts or whatever. Just music. I just look at I had zero respect for Lady Gaga. I couldn't have named a song of hers. It was just like, I don't need another one of these people in my life, you know, until I heard her sing Tony Bennett songs without any of that garbage.
Right.
I was like, whoa, why can't we just have that all
That's
the time?
That's it. But that, you know, it's not sexy. That doesn't sell,
Some
right?
greedy baby boomer's got his hands in there going, oh, we got to put you in a meat outfit and have you strutting around on stage, and it's just like, just let her sing.
I said, one of the biggest victims of that, and it basically, I think, ruined what could have been a good career, was Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah.
You know, she's the first winner of American Idol. Her voice was amazing. When they had her singing on the show, like the old Ella Fitzgerald, that type of stuff, she absolutely crushed it. And then they tried to turn her into a pop star.
Yeah. Because they don't know what else to do with her.
Right.
She's a young girl. Let's turn her into a pop star.
Yeah.
Or she could have went country because she's a white girl.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
And I'm like, it was so disappointing. I'm like, this girl's voice is fantastic. She should really be singing anything but what you have her sing.
Right.
You know, she's not going to go up there and do a 90-minute choreographed, you know, Backstreet Boys dance set. Whatever. It's not. Sit her down on a stool and just small venue. Just let her have at it.
So the guy you have to model yourself after, if you're one of those people, is Jimmy Buffett. And I'm a huge Jimmy Buffett fan. Jimmy Buffett, when he came out, they called him acid rock, and they're like, he's not really acid rock. And then it was like, well, he's country. Well, he's not really country, and he's trying to make it in Nashville, and they're like, these aren't even country songs. What, you know, he's not going to make it. He goes down to Key West. He just basically just starts playing these little bars. All of a sudden, he's a billionaire, you know, because he just did his own thing. He never got played on the radio. He made his tours into these incredible parties where just people just come, and he's an American poet who gets up on stage with a band behind him, you know, and people just love him. His voice isn't that good, you know. He tells good stories in his songs, and people love him, and they have an amazing time at his shows. And it turned into this multi-billion-dollar global empire just from him being Jimmy Buffett, you know.
Yeah, I still am. I'm a big Prince fan.
Yeah.
What I enjoyed about Prince was when Prince wanted to kind of venture out of whatever his popular set was, he just started another band and let them play all their songs. So like Morris Day and the Time was a Prince creation, right? And then there was like The Family, and there were you know, when Apollonia came out, and she had Apollonia. So it was Prince going, I don't want to be stuck in this box.
Right.
But I know it's lucrative what I'm doing, and everybody wants to hear Prince music, but I want to do other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start these other groups and let them do all that music.
Sheila E. was one of his.
Right.
You know?
And it was so genius that he was able to get outside of the box, but still retain what made him famous. He would write songs for people under fake names. Yeah. You know, like that song Manic Monday.
I was going to say, didn't he write Daniel's?
Yeah, Manic Monday. He wrote it as Christopher. The story is he had a crush on Susanna Hoffs.
Right. We all had a crush on Susanna Hoffs.
Right. I still do.
Right.
Did you watch the Prince tribute that they had at the Grammys?
No.
She comes back and she sings Manic Monday with the guy from Coldplay, Chris, whatever his name is. Anyway, she still sounds great.
He walks like Egyptian, where eyes are going back and forth, like fuck.
You know? So Prince had a crush on her, and he wrote the song for them, but he didn't want them to do it just because Prince had written it. Right. So he writes it as this Christopher person. They love the song, and then he. After they record it and it gets popular, then he's like, oh yeah, by the way, that was me. That was me, right? Just so, so good about that. But again, his big battle in the 90s, why he came out with the Emancipation album set was sick of the music industry, constantly stealing my stuff and dictating what they think is the most marketable prints and all this. If you look at his discography, there's more albums in Prince's discography that people have never heard of than there are albums that you're familiar with. Because he's like, yeah, man, I'm just gonna make
I got
some music.
time, I got money, I got all these songs in my head, I want to get them out.
If you like it, great. If you don't like it, great.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna let the music industry dictate my career to me. There was that young singer JoJo. She was popular like mid to late 90s.
Yep.
Kind of same thing. They had so much control over her. She didn't want to keep doing what they were, going down this path. And they said, well, you're under contract, so you got to do what we say. And she said, no, I don't.
I'm out. So
she just didn't make any albums for the rest of the length of her contract. She'd go out and sing in small venues and do that stuff, but just didn't do any music until her contract was over. And then it was like 8 years later. And then jump back in the scene.
Yeah.
My God, how many people got the guts to be like, yeah, fuck it, I'll just do nothing until this stupid contract's over.
But there you are, doing your own thing, fighting an unjust system, but doing it smartly and figuring out how to do it without,
There's just not enough of that. But again, I always listen to my own advice when I say that. How many people are employed simply for the fact that other people are stupid?
Oh,
right.
Yeah, sure.
like we have a whole industry of the fact that people aren't always going to make right decisions.
Yeah.
So for as much as I hate when people make the wrong choice and they do something, I'm like, well, somebody else is making a living.
Bail bondsman and
Right. The lawyers, the bail bondsmen, the friggin' auto repair guys. Everything. People.
Well, police and corrections. You don't make bad decisions,
Yeah, I've got a guy I deliver mail to that his entire business is, if the court says that you need to get those DUI things in your car, like either the thing where you blow into it, the ignition, or the key code or whatever, he installs and uninstalls those. That's all he does.
Probably making a great living.
His parking lot's full.
Yeah.
And it's always full of yellow license plates.
Yeah, the party plates.
Right.
Yeah, that's an Ohio thing, I think. I don't know if they do that everywhere else, but you see the people, you know who's got the DUIs because they got the right plates on their cars.
You're like, man, what are all these people from New Mexico doing? And I was like, oh, no. It's not New Mexico.
Party plates.
Party plates. But just one of those things where, yeah, man, I see that, I'm not happy that there's so many people drinking and driving, but they're paying for my kids to go to college.
Yeah.
I've got a good business. Yeah.
Oh, well. Well, this has been fun.
Always.
I'm going to go meet some people and put some new equipment in the gym. So tomorrow you'll see another big giant dumbbell rack in there and getting that taken care of, getting some dumbbells off the floor. How's lifting been going? You doing all right?
Been good.
I don't get to see you other than coming and going.
No, I'm on that Puerto Rican time, man. I show up late.
You're on that mailman time.
No, it's been good. I was able to, you lent me the kettlebells during the quarantine, so I was able to maintain pretty good. And I'm about at where I want to be at. I really didn't lose much.
Yeah.
During the quarantine, I had started running.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I do too. I do it once or twice a week. I hate it though.
Yeah. I just, as I said, when I was growing up, I was a hurdler. You're gonna get 100 yards out of me.
Yeah.
Maybe
right,
110. Anything after that, ooh man. But it's been good. But I like the class. I like the mix of people in the class. And
I think that 6:30 class now, where we brought a bunch of you together, is good.
Yeah.
It's a good class.
It's I keep telling friends that we're in this mindset of the one size fits all gym thing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
they go to the gym for 3 months and then
Yep.
they're like, man, and then they just quit working out.
Did they get the issue?
I'm like, well, then it's not the right
Right.
gym for you. You know, I was going to the Berea Rec Center for years and years and years, and you know, I maintained.
Yeah, right.
But I wasn't making any progress. And, you know, I'd see guys in there that I'd been seeing in there for years, and they were regressing.
Yeah.
It's like, how the hell you show up to the gym
Every
day
and get worse.
and you're getting worse, right? It didn't make any sense to me. But I like it because it fits, you know, fits my personality. I'm one of these people that the less thinking I got to do,
Yeah.
the less I'm going to talk myself out of something.
Yeah.
You know, like there were days I go to the rec center. Well, what am I going to do today? Well, I can do whatever I want today.
Yeah.
So I'm going to choose nothing.
Right. And I think that's the problem with most people in general. You know?
I'm going to go talk to all the single moms.
Yeah.
Make my rounds, do a couple sit-ups,
Yeah.
and then I'm going home. But, you know, with going to you guys, it's, hey, here's the whiteboard.
Yeah.
This is what you're doing. Get it done.
Then you can hang out with your pals afterwards
Right.
too. You know, they said that we're supposed to make everyone go home as soon as they're done lifting. Go outside.
Right.
Go outside, hang out.
Yeah.
You know.
But again, you see all the people just making all the excuses as to why they can't work out. I'm like, listen, man, I see you posting about every freaking show you binge watch.
Yeah.
Right? So if you got an hour to watch Breaking Bad or whatever,
Yep.
you got an hour to work out.
And I don't even, when I first started the business, I went after those people all the time. No, you can do this. You can. Nope. There's certain kind of people that are going to walk through my door. They're going to stick with it and dig it and work hard. And I'm not going to sell you any bullshit because it's just hard work. It's packaged hard work. That's
Right.
all it is.
Right.
Nothing fancy.
And you know, I post the pictures of my progress, and so people are like, oh man, hey man, tell me about the gym, this and that. I'm thinking about whatever. No, you're not.
Yep.
If you were thinking about joining this gym, you would have joined the gym already.
And the other thing is like, so we had this one girl who's been with me since literally we opened the doors in 2012, and doesn't make that much money. You know, she's just, so I texted her and I said, after 5-6 years or something, I said, hey, I'm taking $25 off your bill from now on. And she was like, why? I'm like, because you earned a discount, you know? Don't come to me if I don't know you and you're right off the street and the first thing you want to do is make me come down on the prices with the prices. Now, if I see you and I know you're a kid struggling and I think that you would be a great fit for that gym, you're going to get in that gym and price isn't going to be an object. You know, we'll get you in that gym.
Right.
You'll pay something, but it might be a percentage for where a guy like you or me paying one thing, he might have to pay a third of that, but percentage-wise, he's putting in the skin, you know?
Yeah, and that it just creates I call it my gym family. So Julie and Kim, we're all in a Facebook chat.
Yeah.
And we keep each other accountable. Yep. We bust each other's balls during that whole quarantine. So the Facebook chat is called the Shutdown Workout Crew.
Right.
You know, so it was every morning, hey, are you guys working out today?
Yep.
And in the evening, you know, okay, what did you guys do? This and that, and we finally dragged Julie back into the gym.
I know, she came and did a couple classes last week.
But it's been nice to have that nice little support system. And again, it's not. It's me and a mom and Julie who likes a day drink. So three very different people.
100%.
But we're all supporting each other. We all have a similar goal, you know, and it's been cool. So I'm going to San Diego into this month. Just gonna go hang out, whatever, and make sure I keep up in there. And then my cousin just called me yesterday. He's filming another movie, and this movie's got some boxing and I guess like some like underground MMA fighting going on in it. And he's like, hey, I need you to be an extra. Like, can you fly out into July and be an extra for this, like, underground fight scene? I'm like, yeah, man.
I've always wanted to do something like that. Aaron says that I could be a heavy in any one of these movies, you know.
Yeah.
I always want to just be an extra, just hang out, just be ugly looking in the background, you know.
And it's you know, what's funny is when we filmed, so we did a short film like back in '06, and I had to play one of the heavies in the short film. And so like Giancarlo Esposito was in the short film, Laz Alonso was in the short film, a couple other people that I've seen in a bunch of stuff, and camera angles and all this, you think people are bigger than they are.
Right.
So I show up and I'm the monster in the room, and I'm an average size. I'm not an average size guy, but I'm not a big guy. You know,
you can walk into a restaurant without people eyeballing you.
Right. But you know, standing next to these guys, I'm like, oh, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So when he calls me, he's like, yeah, I need you to be an extra. In my head, I'm thinking, no, there's bigger guys out there. But then I realized, well, no, most of the actors are probably going to be 5'6".
Right.
And they're, you know, the camera does add 10 pounds. You get these guys that are 155, like a 175-pound guy in Hollywood. When he's on the screen, he looks like he's 205.
Yeah, right.
He looks like a monster.
Stallone. That was Stallone.
Right.
You know.
And I said, yeah. So I'm gonna. He's gonna call me Monday. Let me know exactly what days. But that'll be me busting my ass in the gym.
I love it. Yeah.
You know,
I love it.
so that when I go, he's like, yeah, we're gonna make you crazy looking. You know, we're gonna whatever. So we'll see how that goes. It's just one of those other things I dumb myself into.
It's fun. It's fun, and it's stories, you know.
I tell people when somebody offers you an opportunity, just say yeah.
Try it.
Right. You know, I said, you know, when they finally throw me in that pine box, the kind of people I want walking through the door to show their respects, I want my daughter to go, man, how in the hell did you meet?
Absolutely.
You know, why is there a guy from Iceland?
Right.
At my dad's funeral, you know. Just, I feel bad for people that don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll figure it out.
I like it. All right, brother. Let's end this, and we'll give somebody this table, and I think we solved the world's problems.
Yeah, and no whipped cream on the smoothie.
No whipped cream on the smoothie. All right, guys. This has been the Refined Savage. See ya.